I will be talking about Pol Pot. Pol Pot was a political leader in Cambodia who gained control with the Khmer Rouge government. His dictatorship was more extreme than others, and the Khmer Rouge government wanted to become the main power in Cambodia. Pol Pot was born with the name Sola Sar in 1925 in a small village in Cambodia. He was born to a very affluent family. He later went to Paris to study radio technology. During this time, he became more active in communism, and he helped reorganize the political party, the Khmer People's Revolutionary Party, which later led to him becoming a political leader with the Khmer Rouge government. Pol Pot changed the political viewpoint to reflect those of Marxism-Leninism. This policy implies the rules of Marx in accordance to how Lenin used them. To remain in control, Pol Pot made sure that every single aspect of a person's life was controlled, from their money to their family. Under his command, he forced young children to participate in the military. He also chose to control clothing, sexual relationships, and vocabulary. By doing this, everyone in society was essentially made to become the same person. While ruling, Pol Pot first started governing behind the scenes, but later took over in 1976. Shortly after this time, the Vietnamese started to push back against the Khmer Rouge. In 1979, someone that was an ally of Pol Pot was captured, and he fled into the jungle. The fighting lasted for a decade, but in 1991, a ceasefire agreement occurred. Later, Pol Pot was captured in 1997, and he passed away in 1998 due to a heart failure. The ruling of Pol Pot can be described as harsh. We see this through his ruling style, supporters, and ethical viewpoints. Pol Pot ruled with a brutal mindset. He showed no mercy and would kill anyone that he considered an enemy. In the Dictator's Handbook, it talks about how a political leader does in fact need to be brutal. When dealing with power and corruption, leaders want to stay in power and must take whatever actions are needed to do so. Successful leaders are not above repression, suppression, oppression, or even killing their rivals. Real and imagined. Anyone unwilling to undertake this work should not become a leader. This quote is something Pol Pot followed to a T. In his mind, he wanted to make society pure and under his rule. Anyone who did not follow suit with his alignment would be killed. The main targets of his hatred were the Vietnamese, Chinese, and the Cham Muslim. The entire country was torn apart. Those who were educated, wealthy, or had a political occupation were exterminated. With this control, Pol Pot could eliminate any trace that was left of the past world before he had come into power. 1/7 of Cambodia's population was executed under the rule of Pol Pot. To make the extermination quick, he started an experiment known as the killing fields. The killing fields are accountable for more than 1 million deaths in Cambodia. The main types of deaths that occurred at the killing fields were poison, spades, or sharpened bamboos. He did this so that no ammunition would have to be used with the killings. At the killing fields, people also died from being overworked, dehydrated, or malnourished. The Khmer Rouge had children murdered along with their parents. That way no child could grow old and seek revenge for their parents' murder. While in the killing fields, those that complained about the work, concealed their rations, were usually tortured in the detention center, such as the infamous S-21, and then killed. During the Cambodian genocide, the bones of millions of people who died from malnutrition, overwork, and inadequate health care are filled up by mass graves across the country. Pol Pot's harsh ruling style was scary and made many people afraid of what he was going to be capable of. He did not care about age or background. If you did not fit in with his rules, you were out. He showed no mercy. If you did not join his team, you did not survive, and there was no second chance. In order to maintain his rule, he had to be a strict leader. Although Pol Pot was harsh, some people supported his views and ideas. One of the main allies of Pol Pot was China. In the article, China and the Pol Pot Measurement, we learn that China's support for the Pol Pot regime remains one of the most sensitive aspects of China's Cold War history. Many people in China try to overlook the fact that they aided Pol Pot during this time. Sources say that China sent food to Cambodia, as well as other items necessary for survival. In 1979, China provided Pol Pot with 320 military advisors, equipment for radar, anti-aircraft artillery, and a military airport, 4 escort ships, and torpedo boats, and equipment for a tank regiment, signal regiment, 3 artillery field regiments, and a platoon battalion for the army. China did not tell Pol Pot that the Khmer Rouge what to do with the weapons. They simply just aided them. China did this so that they could have a sway over what was going on in the country, even though that did not necessarily happen. It was their hope. A downfall to China helping Pol Pot out was that it lessened their rule with the United States because Pol Pot had recently attacked an unarmed U.S. freight vessel. Although the United States was upset with China, they too helped to aid Pol Pot. In The Devil's Due, we find out that the United States supported the Khmer Rouge because no enemy of Vietnam could be all that bad. Since the United States was not on good terms with Vietnam, they chose to support the aid of Pol Pot. There is proof that the United States supported the Khmer Rouge. However, the United States government denies all of the claims. The United States government did not want people to know they aided Pol Pot to get back at Vietnam. According to an Australian journalist, the U.S. not only helped to create conditions that brought Cambodia's Khmer Rouge Party in power in 1975, but actively supported the genocidal force politically and financially. By January 1980, the U.S. was secretly funding Pol Pot's exiled forces on the Thai border. The extent of this support, $85 million from 1980 to 1986, was revealed 6 years later in correspondence between a congressional lawyer. Even though the United States said that they were against Pol Pot's rule, they still helped out in many ways. It is in the better interest of countries to help out during these times of need. When it comes to foreign policy, a Democrat is prone to behave more like a devil than an angel. In fact, in targeting her policies at foreign governments, she is likely to be little better than the tyrannical leaders who rule the very foreign regimes. Helping with foreign aid is critical, which could be a reason why both the United States and China chose to help out with Pol Pot. They wanted to better themselves in the long run, and Pol Pot was a stepping stone in doing so. Pol Pot was not ethical at all during his reign. Like you have read above and heard above, he has killed anyone and anyone in his path that did not agree with his choices or opinion. He killed millions of people without a second thought in order to gain power. The Devil's Due also mentions that as many as 100,000 were killed outright for mostly imaginary crimes against Pol Pot and his group. Even if you did not commit a crime, you could be murdered anyway. Pol Pot was not a fan of the following ethical principles. In the Dictator's Handbook, it says that the most important characteristics in a coalition is loyalty. For Pol Pot to remain in power, he had to make some questionable choices. To him, loyalty was not his main priority. When ruling, leaders have to think in a certain manner that follows the principles laid out by Italo Calvino. The throne, once you have been crowned, is where you have best remained, seated without moving day and night. All your previous life has only been waiting to become king. Now you are king. You have only to reign. And what is reigning if not the long wait? Waiting for the moment you will be disposed, when you will have to take leave of the throne, the scepter, the crown in your head? To be a good ruler, you have to protect your spot at all costs. Although Pol Pot did not start out as a vicious rule, he needed to become one in order to stay in power. For most rulers, it is easy to be feared, because then people will be less willing to double-cross you and try to take your throne. Pol Pot's 4 ethical choices didn't instill fear into his people, a fear that caused the whole country to follow his wishes and kill millions of people. He did not get into his position of power by being ethical. Instead, he was very unethical. He wanted to make society perfect. The people who worked with Pol Pot also became unethical. When people make it into a certain group, they start to feel good. The group whose desires are most interesting from the perspective of lasting betterment is a set of essentials. More often than not, they are the people who can make things happen. You see, they don't like the idea that they might be purged to make the coalition smaller. When people realize that they might be next, they start to agree with whoever is in power. That way, they cannot be killed or disposed of. This is how Pol Pot got an army to do his bidding. Everyone was scared they could be next. However, if they joined together, they could have been safe. Pol Pot was unethical, but he knew that by being the way he could gain the public's favor. In the Dictator's Handbook, there are 5 rules that a leader must follow in order to succeed. The rules are as follows. Keep your winning collation as small as possible. Keep your nominal selectorate as large as possible. Control the flow of revenue. Pay your better key supporters just enough to keep them loyal, and don't take money out of your supporters' pockets to make the people's lives better. Pol Pot did not really follow any of the rules listed above. Instead, he focused more on purging rather than bettering the overall community. The only rule he somewhat followed was keeping your winning collation small. By purging a lot of people, he made sure that he had only people on his side left. He started working with the Khmer Rouge and stuck with the same people all the way up until his end. He really did not let any new people into his government. One rule he did not follow very well was to pay your key supporters just enough to keep them loyal. In fact, he did the opposite by taking control of all of the money in Cambodia. By doing this, he made sure that the Khmer Rouge were the only ones with access to money. He did not want people to have access to money because if they did, they could possibly overrule him and his reign would be over. By controlling all the money, he made sure the power was in his hands. However, when he falls, the money will fall with him. One rule that Pol Pot followed from Machiavelli is that it is better to be feared than loved. Pol Pot followed this rule very religiously. We could see this through all of the harsh points he followed. He did not make the people love him. Instead, he made them hate him. Overall, my thoughts on Pol Pot are that he is a very harsh leader. He did cruel things during his rule and showed no mercy. He wanted to make a perfect society, even though that was an unattainable goal. He made sure to make bold statements. If people questioned his actions, they would be executed on the spot. Since he did not start out as a harsh person, it was surprising for me to learn all of the things he had done. One of the most surprising things to me was the killing fields. I had never heard about them or Pol Pot before, which shocked me because we have heard about a lot of other genocides in society. Today, I have discussed the rulings of Pol Pot from beginning to end. I have shown his ruling style, supporters, and ethical viewpoints. During his reign, many issues were tackled, resulting in an impact on Cambodia to last a lifetime.